There are movies that gently invite you in, and then there are movies that kick the door open, roll a robot into the room, and loudly announce that it has thoughts. Short Circuit wastes absolutely no time doing the latter. Before you can even fully process what kind of movie you're watching, Johnny Five is already absorbing information at an alarming rate, asking too many questions and redefining what alive means in a decade obsessed with technology, but quietly terrified of it. This isn't a slow burn discovery story, but a lightning strike, literally and metaphorically. One freak accident, one rogue bolt of electricity, and suddenly a piece of military hardware is quoting pop culture, fearing death, and demanding input like a caffeinated philosophy major. So today on Lovin' the 80s, let's dive into Johnny Five's hardware with Short Circuit.
Stephanie, change color. Attractive. Nice software.
Boy, you sure don't talk like a machine.
Let's talk about our main character. Johnny Five lands squarely in that sweet spot between adorable and overwhelming. He's not cute in the soft, plush toy way. He's cute in the way something genuinely intelligent but completely inexperienced is cute. He doesn't understand boundaries and doesn't understand danger, but he understands learning, and that hunger becomes the emotional engine of the entire film. Watching him devour books, television, movies, and human interaction feels like watching consciousness speed run its way into existence. If E.T. is about empathy arriving on Earth, Short Circuit is about empathy being accidentally created here. It's the semi-grown-up version of that same idea, just less fairy tale, more circuitry, but just as emotionally sincere. What's remarkable is how quickly the movie convinces you to care. Johnny Five isn't treated as a joke or a gimmick. From the jump, the film positions his curiosity as something sacred. His fear of being turned off isn't played for laughs, but it's existential dread filtered through a robot who doesn't yet have the language to articulate it. That's heavy material for a movie that also includes slapstick, pratfalls, and rapid-fire jokes. Short Circuit threads that needle with confidence. It trusts the audience to laugh and feel uncomfortable in the same breath.
Squash. Dead. Disassemble. Dead. Disassemble. Dead!
One of the most remarkable parts of this movie's creation was the challenge of bringing Johnny Five from blueprint to a fully believable on-screen presence. Director John Badham and the design team were adamant that Johnny shouldn't resemble the familiar sci-fi robots that audiences had already seen. Instead, they wanted him to feel like a plausible piece of near-future military hardware that had simply gone one step too far. Legendary futurist designer Sid Mead, alongside Eric Allard, helped shape Johnny's look, drawing inspiration from real-world robotics, including a machine Mead had seen at a Japanese exposition with dual camera eyes. The result was a design that both felt functional and oddly expressive, capable of conveying emotion without ever drifting into fantasy. Making that illusion work required a staggering amount of coordination, with roughly a dozen operators controlling Johnny Five at any given time, and in some complex sequences involving multiple robots. That number reportedly climbed even higher. Every movement, tilt, and gesture was a carefully rehearsed performance, which is why Johnny feels so physically present here. The story itself went through several creative iterations before landing on its now iconic origin. Writer S.S. Wilson and Brent Maddock explored multiple ideas for how Johnny Five might achieve sentience, including more elaborate and convoluted explanations, before settling on the lightning strike that becomes the catalyst for the entire film. While they were aware the concept leaned into familiar sci-fi territory, they ultimately embraced it because it was immediate, intuitive, and emotionally clear. That single moment transformed Johnny from a machine into a character the audience can instantly root for. Director John Badham also pushed hard for practical effects over stop motion or animation, so the actors could interact with a real robot on set, a decision that paid off enormously. A massive part of that expressiveness comes from his voice and cadence. Johnny Five talks fast because his brain is working fast. He repeats phrases because repetition is how he learns. He fixates on words like alive and dead because those concepts terrify him. It's not random, but character psychology baked into performance. The movie understands that if Johnny Five doesn't feel real, then nothing else matters. Every emotional beat hinges on whether you buy his fear, joy, and wonder.
Hey, laser lips! Your mama was a snowblower!
Now let's talk about our human cast. who are equally important in grounding all of this. Steve Guttenberg is operating at peak 80s charm here. He is relaxed, likable, and effortlessly sells the idea that he'd bond with a sentient robot without questioning it too hard. Guttenberg's strength has always been accessibility, and he just feels like someone you could actually know, and that quality makes his relationship with Johnny Five believable. He's honestly just a guy who recognizes something special when he sees it. Then there's Ali Sheedy, who brings a different kind of emotional credibility. Coming off The Breakfast Club, Sheedy already carried a quiet depth that Short Circuit uses beautifully. Her character's compassion never veers into cartoonish sentimentality. She doesn't see Johnny Five as a novelty or a science experiment. She just sees him as something vulnerable, and that empathy anchors the film. Without her, Johnny Five's fear might feel abstract, but with her, it feels personal. Ali Sheedy said she treated Johnny like a genuine scene partner during filming, and that commitment bleeds through every frame. It is one of the key reasons that this movie still works decades later, which turns a complicated technical production into something that feels effortless, warm, and surprisingly human. The supporting players help flesh out the world as a place where corporate ambition, military oversight, and human curiosity collide. The movie subtly critiques the idea of technological process without responsibility. Johnny Five isn't dangerous because he's violent. He's dangerous because the people who built him didn't consider what happens if intelligence emerges unexpectedly. That tension gives the film an edge beneath the comedy. It's funny, yes, but it's also quietly anxious about the systems we create and the lives we might accidentally trap inside them.
If you want to help number 5, let me have it back. It's malfunctioning and it needs to be repaired.
Life is not a malfunction.
What no one fully anticipated was how quickly Johnny Five would explode into 80s pop culture. Almost overnight, he became instantly recognizable. One of those characters where you didn't even need to mention the movie title for people to know exactly who you meant. Toys, model kits, posters, and home video box art leaned heavily on his image because audiences connected with him far more than the military subplot or even the human characters. He joined that rare tier of non-human 80s icons who felt like genuine personalities rather than corporate mascots, sitting comfortably alongside figures like E.T. and other era-defining creations. His popularity even spilled into gaming culture, with it receiving its own video game adaptation, further cementing Johnny Five as a full-blown multimedia presence rather than just a movie character. That popularity naturally led to a sequel, and while Short Circuit 2 takes a different tonal route, it reinforces how central Johnny Five was to the entire enterprise. The returning presence of Fisher Stevens helps bridge the gap, but it's clear the audience wasn't showing up for the humans anymore, just Johnny. By that time, Johnny Five had crossed the line from character to icon. You couldn't replace him or redesign him or even replicate him without losing the magic. Rewatching Short Circuit now, there's an almost bittersweet quality to it. It comes from a time when artificial intelligence was a thought experiment rather than a daily reality that we all deal with. The movie imagines AI as something curious, emotional, and deserving of protection rather than exploitation. It argues quietly but firmly that intelligence without empathy is hollow, and empathy without freedom is cruelty. That's a big idea wrapped in jokes, pratfalls, and a robot quoting pulp culture, but that's exactly why it works. Short Circuit didn't become a classic because it was flashy. It became a classic because it cared. It cared about its characters, ideas, and audience. Johnny Five wasn't designed to conquer or intimidate. He was designed to learn, and in doing so, he taught an entire generation to see intelligence as something fragile and valuable. In the crowded pantheon of 80s icons, Johnny Five stands tall, not because he was the strongest or the smartest, but because he was the most curious. And sometimes, curiosity is the most human thing of all.
But you can't die, you're a machine.
No.
No, you're not a machine.
Yes.
Yes, you are, or yes, you're not.
Yes.
Yes, what?
Yes. Not.
Talk about a malfunction.
Not malfunction, Stephanie. Number 5 is alive.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. Joe Blow was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.